Yeah.
Let's jump into the show today since we had a little fun in our intro here. But LSU, we'll go to Cole first on this. LSU under investigation or being explored by the CSC, the College Sports Commission, due to tampering allegations. Now, I think this is a nothing burger, but I would like to hear your thoughts, Cole.
I think until we get all underneath the same umbrella, we're going to continuously see other teams try to say that so-and-so tampered with so-and-so just to be able to go ahead and throw money their way or be able to kind of be the fortune police. That's what I think. I agree with you. This is a nothing burger. And the reason it is a nothing burger is what's going to come of it. At the end of the day, Greg Sankey's probably going to go march on in or have somebody march on into Lane Kiffin's office and say, here's what happened. Here's what went wrong. Don't do it again. Slap on the wrist and you go back out of practice as long as you win me a national title. Like, that's kind of the nature of the business right now because of the allegations that are being made. You can't say that you were tampering at a place like Ole Miss and call out a place such as what's it called? Such as LSU. You can't call them out when you clearly are tampering with a program like Clemson. And Clemson won't probably tamper with anybody, but you sure as hell can believe that NC State's done it. You can probably believe Miami's done it. They clearly went after a guy in Darian Mensah to bring him on down. So until there is all underneath the same umbrella of consistency, nobody's going to get in trouble. They're all underneath allegations. They're all doing shady stuff behind closed doors. And the thing is that this happens in every single sport. I can tell you as somebody that lives in Houston and had to hear for years on end about the 2017 garbage can scandal. And then you throw in a bang bang buzzer on Jose Altuve, that he was the one that was cheating all along and the allegations made against him in 2019. Everyone does some capacity of illegal, shady stuff behind closed doors. It's just, can you get away with it? And ultimately, a place like LSU, they're going to be fine with it at the end of the day.
Tom, is there any way? Okay, so like to me, the most extreme fix would be to make everybody employees and sign a CBA,
Yes,
and operate by rules. I don't think we're close to that at all because I don't think the universities want to pay 401ks, health benefits. I don't think they want the money coming out of their revenue. I think they like the idea of, hey, Cody Campbell will pay for that, or hey, the Walmart folks up there in Arkansas will pay for that. I think they like that additional $10 to $20 million per university, whatever's being paid, to not have to come out of their budgets. I think they like sitting in the fancy chairs making millions of dollars as administrators. And I think they like, the coaches like the money they're getting. So as much as all these people say, oh, we care about the athletes, I don't think they do. I think they care about money. And I don't think they want that additional. They've already gotten hit with an $18.5 million revenue cap that everybody needs to spend to stay competitive, but they don't want to spend that additional $5, $10, $20 million out of their own revenue either, though the money's there. Florida State's won 7 games in 2 years and just cleared $200 million in operating revenue. The money is there. They just don't want to do it. So with all that said, is there another fix beside that you can think of?
Yeah, we just stop the charade and we have the FCS, we have the FBS, and we have the CFP. And the CFP would be the Power 2, ironically, the name of this show. The Big Ten and the SEC finally decide to break off and create their Power League, and we call it the CFP. Gosh darn it, isn't that fascinating? We've already been kind of indoctrinating football fans into understanding that vernacular over the last few years. And you make it so that you're no longer playing for the University of Georgia, for instance. You're playing for the Georgia Bulldogs football team, LLC. I think private equity is eventually going to take over a lot of these programs, and rightfully so. If I'm a donor that's just throwing away money and guys are hopping into the portal or I'm not seeing my ROI, well, yeah, I'm going to want to see my money grow in some capacity, or I'm going to want it back in full or with interest. So I think sometime in the future, you're going to see all of these football programs, not universities, but football programs say, hey, we are a part of the Big Ten, the SEC conferences, and they are a part of the CFP. And you are player John Smith and you want to go play for University X. Okay, you're going to be playing for the Ohio State Buckeyes football team, LLC. Here's your employment contract. Here's your collective bargaining agreement, all that sort of stuff. We get rid of the student athlete thing because it's been pretty clear that this is minor league sports at this point. This is minor league NFL. So let's just be done with it so that we're not being like, well, are they going to get the class and credits and all this sort of stuff? Like, we open Pandora's box. The solution is to create contracts, create guardrails, employment opportunities. Now, I know these schools don't want to deal with that. So that's why you separate church and state. which it's kind of been that way for a long time anyway. It's comical when the CSC comes down on LSU. It's like, oh, what are you really going to do about this? And the NCAA has been toothless for decades at this point. So why are these entities that are far more powerful than the authorities, quote unquote, that they're being attacked by and punished by, listening to them in the first place? I don't understand it for the life of me. So if the cap that's been thrown out there by the CSC, NCAA, whatever you want to call it, is being circumvented anyway with the tried and true method of the McDonald's bag full of cash, then that's going to keep on happening. That's going to keep on happening at the schools that are able to throw it around. So I don't know when it's necessarily going to happen, when everybody wakes up and realizes, like, yeah, there's two major conferences that hold all the power and have the most drawing capability within this business ecosystem. They will break off in football specifically, and the sport will be known as the CFP, and you're going to go work for the Big Ten and the SEC within the CFP, basically an NFL model. So just get it over with at this point. I'm tired of looking at it.
But you are going to have to sign contracts and negotiations that say you are under a certain deal until X, Y, and Z year, and whenever your deal is up, or you were able to get out of that contract, but somebody's got to be able to buy you out for it, just like you would in any other specific club. What I find really interesting is that we never see programs that are high profile, the pinnacles of the sport, the ones that are the biggest talking points, ever having to deal with anything than just simple allegations made against them. And then they'll get a few addendums thrown on in here and there, but we usually don't hear about it from the public spotlight unless it's at a highest level of where like federal government's getting involved. But what happens if this were to occur at a place, say, Wake Forest, or we go to Iowa State, just a location that maybe doesn't have the same buy-in when it comes to revenue distribution and media rights and all of the other things that go into talking points that people like you and I know is going to sell in marketing and sell towards fandom and sell towards, any single time that you bring in conversations. Are they going to get slapped on the wrist harder than a place like LSU? Because I think it's really easy to go ahead and pinpoint back to the Astros. The Astros being a team that were on the come up, but not in a major market in terms of selling points for revenue distribution, or say the Arizona Diamondbacks, if they were to ever get in trouble. You could probably slap them on the wrist and give them a little bit more of a sanctity because of, guess what? Not a lot of people are going to care about them in the public spotlight. But the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Dodgers, are we really going to punish them the way that we would punish Alabama, Ohio State, LSU? Because that's another thing I think is really poignant here. When you have the backing of the NCAA saying you are our money cash grabber, you are somebody that is going to draw in a lot of eyeballs and a lot of revenue distribution, we're going to kind of be able to be more relaxed with you. And by the way, believe me, if Texas Tech at some point didn't have a booster like Cody Campbell to be willing to buy them out of all the trouble that they could ever get in, maybe they would be the first one to go through it. But when you don't have all of those resources and you're asking yourself, how are we getting in trouble behind the tampering and the allegations and being able to pay some players? Basically turn into a Jaden Rashada situation 2.0 week in and week out. Is that going to be something that finally gets the NCAA on board to say we all have to be under one governing body if we want to be able to make this work long term?
And I wonder, too, it would be tough for me to see all four of them do it. But I wonder if Greg Sankey would ever say, dude, I don't care. Okay, we can talk about Ole Miss a little bit too. It kind of the same thoughts here. Fresno State alleges that they tampered with a wide receiver there. Would Greg Sankey ever come out and say, hey, guys, maybe even privately, hey, I don't really care what you do to Clemson. I don't really care if you, maybe don't do it in text message that can get screenshotted and then shared. But I don't really care what you do to these other leagues. But let's not do that in conference. Let's avoid the LSU Ole Miss stuff. Now, very specific situation where a coach left and went. I don't think LSU would have necessarily targeted another SEC school so heavily had the coach not just come from there. But I wonder if Sankey would ever be hey, guys, go rob from the other guy. Don't do it in conference. And then if Tony would say hey, guys, let's not steal from the people in conference. Let's not, bend the rules. Now, there's nothing wrong with a player transferring in conference. Although the SEC did have that rule for a while, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, we don't care if they transfer, but let's not give ourselves a black eye for tampering within the conference, right? Let's at least try and do that the right way. Listen, I don't know how much that fixes overall. Again, should Jim Phillips probably go say that to Miami too? Hey, we don't care who you go get. We understand that there are different levels of brands in our conferences, but maybe let's not make such a public stink of it when it's conference member to conference member too.
But that's kind of what you just said. It's the level of brand. I mean, Duke is fresh off of winning an ACC title at 7-5 and nearly cost the entire conference a spot in the college football playoff. Luckily, voters realized at the very last second on the committee, we can't leave out Miami when they have a head-to-head win over Notre Dame. We got to throw them on in, and we can't disrespect the ACC by not having representation. But at the same time, what's Jim Phillips looking at? From a money revenue distribution standpoint, who's going to draw on more eyeballs? Who's going to draw on more attention? Who's going to put more butts in seats? Who's going to be able to have a higher revenue that benefits the conference long term? It's Miami, so he doesn't care about it. And for some standpoint, whether or not I agree with it, because I don't agree with it at any level, the same thing goes for LSU and Ole Miss. Ole Miss right now may end up being a team that we see continuously get to the highest honor. Now if they get back Trinidad Chambliss, Keywan Lacey comes on back in. Pete Golding was able to beat Kirby Smart in his first SEC game. Was a bowl game, but still he beat him, so that means something. But it's LSU. LSU year in and year out is always going to be talked about as one of the premier programs in college football. I view it as the best job in college football when prophecy said, that's what it is. So it's you can't say any of that stuff without knowing that, this is all going on. And frankly, LSU has the right point to go about it. They have to be able to go ahead and bring in whoever the hell they want because it's LSU. That's the bottom line.
I'll get right back to the video, but first, make sure you are over on the Sleeper app, whether you're looking up scores, whether you're engaging in some good, friendly trash talk on there, Eliminator Leagues, Survivor Leagues, college basketball, NHL, NBA, or of course the Super Bowl upcoming. Make sure that you use our code CFA for a 100% match up to $100. Looking for 4 or 5 people to go sign up this week on the Sleeper app. Use our code, again, CFA. Go put in 10, 20 bucks. They'll match it all the way up to $100 with a 100% match. We appreciate Sleeper for their support. Go make some money with us.
Shout out to our friends at AYS Sports Network for getting involved in our comment section here and bringing up.
We love Blake Ruffino. He's fantastic.
Bring up the point about paperwork. Listen, in this day and age, entertainment, if you don't get it in writing, stop complaining. That's the way it is. And unfortunately, there are some conferences that have this organized. I think the Big Ten seems to be out in front on this as the greatest conference in college football right now for 3 years running. But the DeMond Williams situation is pretty good example of how a conference should handle this stuff. Is oh, you want to go back on a contract you just signed a couple of days ago. Great. We're going to sue you and we're going to get all this money back in damages and buyouts and everything. And listen, I'm all on the player side when it comes to this. And you've got to be terrified as a teenager and or a young 20-year-old dealing with something of this caliber. Yeah, it's exciting to be getting millions of dollars if you're able to do so at the college level. But when somebody turns around and says hey, I'm going to sue you and you need to give back all this money, I'm going to prevent you from playing, graduating, even really affecting your future, this becomes very, very serious. And to that point, we're not taking this sport seriously. The 3 of us are attempting to, at least. But from a business standpoint, right now, it's such a mess. And a lot of it is to the point TJ was bringing up earlier, is that these universities, these TV networks are raking in dollars. So why go to the lengths to create these guardrails when it's only going to make things a little more tricky and damage their bottom line? So
I wonder, you mentioned DeMond Williams, and obviously such stark differences between the way that things went down with DeMond Williams, Darian Mensah, and Petamon, whoever, right? All of these guys that we're talking about. I wonder if we start to see way more strict contracts. I wonder if everybody's trying to copy what Washington did.
They should.
Should be. Yeah, should be.
I would hope. And I'm with Tom. I am all on the side of the players because somebody asked me the other day, said, has this sport lost its integrity with where everything's gone? And I said, I don't know, man. We heard for 30 years these players should be happy getting a scholarship, worth roughly $20,000, while they made billions for TV networks and hundreds of millions for universities. So I don't know, man. Has it ever had integrity? It just is a little bit more in the light now, and you kind of see some of the money, and that's probably what your complaint is. But all that said, I'm all on the side of the players, and do whatever you think is right, do whatever you think, but have some sense about it. I'm on the side of the players in the NFL too. I don't like any NFL owners. I'm all on the side of the players in the NBA. I'm not a company man when it comes to that, but I do appreciate that there are some rules in those other
there's no
in those other sports and other leagues, right? I'm not out here raising my fist for the Glazers here in Tampa. No, I like Baker. I like Mike Evans. But I'm glad that there are some rules that have been agreed upon by both sides.
Yeah.
Look, the only thing that I care about is a contract and how a contract is stabilized from it. I don't want to hear that you sign on the dotted line, you're coming back to a school. Oh, wait, another team offering me more money. Peace out if you're not going to match that deal. Like, I think that's ridiculous because of you signed the contract. If you want to leave the door open, nobody is stopping you from doing that. I'm totally content with that. But once you put pen to paper and say, this is where I'm meant to be, I don't care if it's the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC, an ACC player head on down to the SEC, an SEC player headed on up to the Big 10. When you sign that contract and they come out with a big statement saying, yo, you're back. We are making it declarative. He ain't going anywhere. You're not going anywhere at that point. You are locked in for the long term and for the foreseeable future being a part of that organization. That's it. That's all I care about. Because until we get to that level, we're going to constantly see the reporting of we're tampering, we're illegally going after somebody, transfer portal's closed, and we had somebody text this person. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do until there are any ramifications? Oh, that's a bad look. Great. The weather's nice today. Hey, TJ, what do you got planned this weekend? Tom, are you going to the cookout? They're all equal in the same things when we all talk about it from the nature of the life because of it's going to have no impact whatsoever. Unless Tom is inviting me to the cookout, then of course it's going to be really bad.
Always invited to the cookout.
Thank you. I will make sure I bring the lemonade.
If I can say this about the Dabo situation, TJ, I love that he brought receipts. I love that he walked through the timeline. And again, like you have to take him for his word on this and maybe with a grain of salt. Like
he's the one dude you don't want to mess with because he's going to be petty on this.
But there were a lot of coaches that said like they loved it and they would like to see more guardrails. I found it just particularly entertaining because as a guy who's been divorced and has hopped on dating apps in the past few years for the first time, it's kind of what it felt like. You're like, wait a minute, I'm just trying to meet the right person. And then I wanted to go out with this person. And then they said they wanted to go out. And then they ghosted me. And I don't understand this. That's exactly what Dabo experienced, except it was with the transfer portal. And he was like, gosh darn it, how do I handle this world?
Yeah, but the girl got off the app and then she wanted the keys to his apartment and then went back on the app after you deleted it. That's what happened.
It was incredible.
Dabo finally uses the portal and then this happens to him. Like it's like the ultimate, maybe if you tried 3 years ago. My favorite thing that Dabo said, all jokes aside, which listen, maybe I'm just becoming like an old curmudgeon, but like the more and more Dabo says things, I'm like, dang, he's really right about it. Like he's goofy, like there's no doubt, but like you're like, dang, Dabo is really right. Like a lot. And so, but my favorite thing he said was I had other coaches reach out to me and tell me like, oh man, this happened to us. And he basically from the podium said, don't tell me that anymore. If you're not doing what I'm doing right now, don't reach out and tell me. Don't text me and say, hey man, sucks, doesn't it? This thing happened to us. And the only reason they won't is because they're all cheating too.
Right.
Like, let's be very fair. Dabo is one of a very few that's not out here tampering because it's happening at every level. Like we went and saw the FCS national championship. Those guys are getting, you don't think Wake is tampering. You don't think, Duke or, Syracuse or these smaller schools are, they're just doing it a level down. They're doing it the group of five. They're doing the FCS. Like it's happening everywhere. I do actually believe Dabo when he says we're not doing it. And so I liked it when he said, don't call and tell me that you're getting cheated too. Mm-hmm. Do what I'm doing. Take a stand against it.
That's the thing that it comes to when LSU and Ole Miss people are like all the time, like Ole Miss is saying, oh, well, look at all the receipts we got on Lane. What receipts are you going to pull out that somebody's not pulling out on you? Like that's just it. Oh, we're tampering at, Penn's meetings honorably here underneath Matt Campbell. Brother, half the roster's from Iowa State, and they knew that you were out the door, and then they were immediately in the portal. I think it's the same thing. Like if you're allowed to go ahead and say, I appreciate that there are guardrails being set up by you and your university for how you're doing it. But you can't be lying through one side of your mouth, on the other side be looking at that wide receiver one and going, we'll pay you $750,000 more than what you're getting in your current deal to leave Death Valley and head on down to the real Death Valley in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Like you can't do that. Like it's wrong on so many different levels, but that's the nature of college football these days.
We have some love here from Jackson 979.
Oh,
happy belated anniversary. Yeah, we just listen. The channel is 2 years old, so shout out to our
2 Americans.
Yeah, 2 years of doing this. So I don't know when we started the Power 2 boys. I think it's getting close to a year. March
last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're getting close to a
I can
year
look
there.
back and then we can actually have on the day that is our 1 year anniversary, do a celebration episode. I'll look back on the very first episode.
Favorite moments. Since it'll be March, there'll be nothing to talk